I used to believe that pain had a sound, that it came in screams, in slammed doors, in the sharp crack of something breaking. But I've learned that real pain is quiet. It sits behind smiles. It hides in, "I'm fine." It lives in the moments when no one is watching, when the laughter fades and the silence finally tells the truth. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 34 years old, and this is the story of how my family's betrayal turned me into someone I never thought I could be. Not a villain, not a victim, something in between. I grew up believing love was supposed to save us. My parents were the kind of couple who made people believe in fairy tales, or at least, that's what everyone else saw. My father, Raymond, was a lawyer, polished and respected. My mother, Eleanor, was the picture of grace, soft voice, gentle hands, eyes that could make you feel safe and small at the same time. But underneath their picture-perfect smiles was a secret I didn't learn until it was too late. It started on a Sunday morning, the kind of morning that felt too peaceful to be real. I was sitting at the kitchen table, flipping through property listings because my husband and I had been talking about moving closer to my parents. I remember the way the sunlight poured through the curtains, how ordinary everything felt. Then my phone rang. It was my younger sister, Lily. Her voice was shaking. "Claire," she said, "you need to come to the hospital." "What happened?" "It's Dad." When I got there, everything was chaos. Nurses rushing, monitors beeping, that sterile smell of fear mixed with antiseptic. My father had collapsed in court, a heart attack. They said. I was the first one to reach him after surgery. He was alive but pale, fragile in a way I'd never seen. His hand squeezed mine weakly. "Take care of your mother," he whispered. "And don't let her handle the papers alone." "The papers?" I asked. But his eyes were already closing. At the time, I thought he meant his legal files cases. Contracts. The usual. I didn't know he was talking about something else entirely. My father passed 2 weeks later, and that's when everything began to unravel. My mother, who had always seemed composed, turned cold and distant. She barely spoke during the funeral. And when she did, her words were rehearsed. Empty. Lily clung to me like a lost child, even though she was 28, insisting Mom just needed time. But there was something different in her eyes, a flicker of fear I couldn't place. 3 days after the funeral, I found an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a copy of a bank statement, a joint account under my father's name and another, belonging to my sister, Lily. The balance was staggering. Over $480. Ling ling ling. I remember staring at it. Frozen. My mind refusing to connect the dots. My sister had been living paycheck to paycheck, constantly asking me for small loans, a few hundred here, a few thousand there. She always said it was for bills. Emergencies. So where did nearly $500,000 come from? That night, I confronted her. She was sitting on my couch, drinking wine, pretending to watch TV. When I placed the paper in front of her, she didn't even flinch. She just sighed. "So you found it," she said softly. "Found what?" "Lily, what is this?" "It's what Dad left me." My heart sank. Dad didn't leave anything to anyone, yet his will isn't even finalized. She looked at me, then really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something cruel behind her eyes. "You always thought you were the responsible one," she said. "The favorite, the perfect daughter, but Dad and I had our own understanding." I felt sick. "You stole from him." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "No, he gave it to me." She stood and walked toward the door. "You wouldn't understand. Claire, you never do." And then she was gone. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I went to my parents' house. My mother was in the study, surrounded by boxes of documents. When she saw me, she gave a tired smile. "You shouldn't be here." "Darling, you need to rest." Mom, I said, holding up the bank statement. Why did Dad have a secret account with Lily? Her hands froze mid-motion. Where did you get that? It doesn't matter. I need you to tell me the truth. She sat back slowly, her expression unreadable. Your father wasn't perfect, she said finally. He made mistakes. But everything he did for this family. That's not an answer. Her eyes met mine calm, almost pitying. You're your father's daughter, always needing control, always digging where you shouldn't. Something in me snapped. Lily stole from him. Mom, and you're covering for her. I'm protecting her, she said, her voice sharp now. The way I protected you when you ran away from your marriage and embarrassed this family. I felt that like a slap. She'd never forgiven me for divorcing my husband, even though he'd cheated. To her, appearances mattered more than pain. I turned toward the door, shaking. I'm done protecting anyone. If there's something illegal here, I'll find it. Behind me, she said quietly. Then be prepared to lose everything. Those words haunted me. I didn't understand what she meant until weeks later, when my father's will was read. The lawyer unfolded the papers slowly, his voice steady but hesitant. To my beloved wife, Eleanor, I leave the estate and its holdings. To my daughter Lily, the trust account previously established under her name. And to my daughter Claire. He paused. I leaned forward. I leave my car and personal effects. That was it. Lily's smile widened as I felt the floor drop out beneath me. Afterward, the lawyer pulled me aside privately. There's something strange about this will, he said. It was updated just a week before your father's heart attack. The signature looks off. Off? He hesitated. Almost too perfect. Your father's handwriting was shaky in his last days. But this signature, it's flawless. That's when it hit me. My father's final words. Don't let her handle the papers alone. He hadn't been warning me about my mother's grief. He'd been warning me about her deceit. I took the forged will straight to the police. They opened an investigation quietly. But my mother's influence in town made things complicated. She denied everything. Of course. Insisting my grief had made me paranoid. Lily backed her up. But the more I dug, the darker it got. I found old financial transfers dating back years' money funneled into Lily's account in increments, disguised as charitable donations. Documents in my father's handwriting amended. Overwritten. Replaced. The deeper I went, the more one truth became clear: my mother and sister had orchestrated everything. They'd convinced my father, in his weakest state, to sign things he couldn't even see clearly. And when he realized, it was too late. The betrayal didn't just come from blood. It came from trust. One night, as I sat surrounded by boxes of documents, I found something that stopped me cold, an old letter addressed to me, hidden in the lining of my father's briefcase. His handwriting shaky but unmistakable. Claire, if you're reading this, it means you've seen the truth. I tried to fix it, but they were faster. I trusted the wrong people. Protect what's left. They'll come for it too. I didn't sleep that night, because I knew exactly what he meant by, they'll come for it too. And he was right. It started with strange phone calls. Unfamiliar cars parked outside my apartment. Then one night, I came home to find my place ransacked, drawers open. Documents gone. That was when I realized they weren't just after the money. They were after everything. And they didn't know yet that I was ready to fight back. 2 nights after my apartment was broken into, I stopped being the daughter who begged for truth and became the woman who took it back. The police called it a random burglary. But nothing about it was random. Whoever did it knew exactly what to look for. They went straight for my father's files. Skipped the electronics, the jewelry, everything else. And there was only one person who knew where I'd been keeping those papers. Lily. That realization hit me like ice water down my spine. I sat in my car for hours that night, parked across from my parents' old house. The same place I'd once run barefoot through the garden chasing fireflies with her. Now the sight of it made my stomach turn. The porch light was still on. Through the window, I saw her silhouette laughing. My mother's. Two figures bathed in warm, golden light. They'd destroyed our father's legacy and stolen what wasn't theirs. And yet here they were laughing. That laughter was what broke me. That night, I swore I'd make them face what they'd done, not just legally, but emotionally. I wanted them to feel the weight of the betrayal they'd buried under layers of lies. I didn't know how yet, but I knew where to start. The next morning, I went back to my father's law firm. His old partner, Jonathan Reed, was there, a kind man with the kind of patience only 30 years in court could give you. He looked at me with quiet sadness when I told him what I suspected. I tried to warn him. Jonathan said softly. He thought Eleanor would never do something like that. He was blind to her ambition. Ambition, I asked. He nodded. Your mother was the real strategist behind most of his estate planning. Your father trusted her with too much. She convinced him to consolidate accounts, revise the trust structure, even transfer property titles. I didn't think much of it at the time, but when he got sick, she became different. How different? She fired half the staff, locked me out of the files, and said your father wanted it that way. But he didn't. He called me the day before the collapse. Claire. He sounded terrified. Said he'd uncovered something, a paper trail. Said he was going to fix it after his court appearance. I felt my pulse race. Did he tell you what it was? Jonathan hesitated. He didn't have to. He opened a drawer and pulled out a USB drive. He sent me copies of some documents the night before his heart attack. I wasn't sure if I should give this to anyone, but if what you're saying is true, you deserve to see it. When I got home, my hands were shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. There were dozens of scanned files, property transfers, shell company registrations, offshore accounts, and then one folder marked simply, for Claire. Inside was a video file. It took a moment for the image to appear. My father, pâle, sitting in his office, the lamplight dim. His voice trembled. Claire, if you're watching this, I didn't make it. I found what your mother and sister have been doing, using my name to launder money through the trust. They convinced me it was tax management. I was wrong. They forged my last signature. And I fear they'll destroy the evidence if I confront them. You need to protect what's left of our name. Don't let them win. His voice broke at the end. For a long time after the video ended, I just sat there, numb. I'd spent my life believing that my mother was the moral compass of our family. Now I realized she'd been the storm destroying it from within. And Lily, my sweet, reckless little sister, had been her perfect accomplice. I called the investigator that same night. His name was Detective Mason, a quiet man who'd handled corporate fraud cases before. I gave him everything: the bank records, the forged will, the video. He promised to start digging, but warned me it wouldn't be easy. Your mother's smart, he said. She covered her tracks. We'll need a confession or undeniable proof that she coerced your father. A confession. The word echoed in my mind. That was when I began to plan. I started visiting my mother more often, pretending to reconcile. Each visit was like walking into a lion's den. She'd greet me with that same practiced warmth tea. Small talk. Shallow affection. Lily would hover nearby, quiet and watchful. They thought I'd given up. They thought grief had softened me. It hadn't. Every conversation was recorded. Every subtle admission. Every slip of the tongue. I kept my questions gentle, my tone harmless. I became the dutiful daughter again, the one who didn't fight back, the one they underestimated. Until one night, the mask slipped. We were sitting in the living room. The fire crackled softly. My mother poured us both a glass of wine. She looked at me with that faint smile she reserved for victories. You're calmer now, she said. That's good. I was worried you might make things messy. Messy, I repeated, swirling my wine. Yes. You have a tendency to chase justice when it's better to accept what life gives you. I looked up, meeting her eyes. Like you accepted Dad's will. Her smile faltered. Just a little. You think, I don't know, I whispered. You and Lily forged it. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes hardened. You shouldn't throw around such accusations. Claire, it makes you look unstable. Maybe, I said quietly, but it's funny. Mom, unstable people don't usually have video evidence. That was the moment her composure cracked. She froze, glass halfway to her lips. What did you just say? I leaned forward, my voice steady. Dad recorded everything. I saw the files, the fake transfers, the accounts. The night he tried to warn you. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother pale. You're bluffing, she said. Am I? She stood abruptly. You have no idea what you're getting into. You think you're strong enough to destroy me? Everything your father built, I protected. You're nothing without this family. Then why are you afraid? I said softly. That silence, that hesitation was all I needed. When I walked out that night, my phone was still recording. Her voice followed me into the hallway. If she takes this to the police, we'll lose everything. We should have handled her when we had the chance. That one sentence changed everything. The next day, I turned the recording and my father's video over to Detective Mason. Within 48 hours, the case moved from civil inheritance dispute to criminal fraud and forgery investigation. 2 weeks later, they arrested my mother and Lily. I wish I could say I felt triumphant. But I didn't. Watching them led out of that house in handcuffs felt like cutting off a limb to save the body. I loved them once, and in some twisted way. I still did. But love without truth is poison. The trial dragged on for months. Their lawyer tried everything, claimed my father had dementia, that I'd manipulated the evidence. That grief made me vengeful. But the recordings were too clear, the documents too precise, and the video, my father's trembling confession, left no room for lies. When the verdict came, it was almost anticlimactic. Guilty on all counts. I didn't cry when they were sentenced. I didn't even feel relief. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something. Justice doesn't heal you. It just gives your pain a name. After the sentencing, I thought things would finally start to feel lighter. That somehow the air around me would shift. That I'd wake up one morning and feel the weight of everything lift from my chest. But grief doesn't work like that. Justice doesn't come with relief. It comes with aftermath. With echoes. With silence that's somehow louder than the shouting ever was. For the first few weeks, I went through the motions of life like a ghost in my own body. Work. Meals. Sleep, all on autopilot. Friends tried to reach out, but I didn't know how to talk to anyone who hadn't lived through what I had. People said things like, "You're so strong and you did the right thing." Maybe they were right. But every time I heard those words, I thought of my mother's face as the verdict was read blank. Almost serena. Like she'd already accepted it long before I had. I couldn't stop replaying her last words before they took her away. "You'll understand one day," she'd said, "when you learn how far people go to survive." At first, I dismissed it as manipulation, another attempt to plant doubt. But late at night, when the world went still and the guilt crept in, I started to wonder if she meant something more. Maybe I didn't want to know. One evening, months after the trial, I was sorting through old boxes at my father's office, preparing to finally close it down when I found a small, sealed envelope hidden behind a stack of old case files. My name was written on the front in my mother's handwriting. For a long time, I just stared at it, afraid of what it might contain. But curiosity always wins with me. It always has. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a photograph. The photo was of my mother, holding a baby that wasn't me or Lily. The back of the photo read June 1900, 186 oursons. Matthew. My blood ran cold. I wasn't born until 1989. For a long moment, I couldn't move. My hands trembled as I unfolded the letter. Claire, if you're reading this, it means you've done what I couldn't. You've faced the truth. But there's more you don't know about me. About your father. About what really broke this family. Before you judge me too harshly, I want you to understand why. The letter went on to describe a part of their marriage I'd never known. Before Lily and I were born, my parents had a son, Matthew. He died in a car accident when he was 3 years old. My father was driving. My mother had never forgiven him for it. He was the light of my life. She wrote, when he died, something inside me died too. Your father tried to move on with work, with ambition, with you girls, but I couldn't. I wanted to forgive him. But every time I looked at him, I saw what I'd lost. So when the money came, when the opportunity came to take something back, I did. I told myself it was justice. I told myself he owed me. Maybe I became the monster you think I am. Maybe I always was. I dropped the letter and pressed my hand to my mouth. The room spun around me. Suddenly, all her coldness, all her obsession with appearances, her need to control it all made sense. It didn't excuse what she did, but it explained the darkness she lived with. And yet, even with that revelation, I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. Because pain might explain cruelty, but it doesn't justify it. I sat there for hours, reading the letter over and over, trying to find something in her words that sounded like remorse. There was none. Just exhaustion. At the bottom of the page, she'd written one last line. Don't let this destroy you the way it destroyed me. That night, I burned the letter. I couldn't keep it. Some truths are too heavy to live with. The months turned into a year. The trial became history. Reporters stopped calling. My mother and Lily were serving their sentences. My mother in a low-security women's facility. My sister in another state. I didn't visit them. I couldn't. Not at first. But one morning, almost exactly a year after the verdict, I woke up from a dream that wouldn't let me go. I was standing on the front porch of our old house, the garden wild and overgrown, my father's laughter echoing faintly from somewhere I couldn't reach. And then, I saw my mother younger, softer, holding Matthew in her arms. She smiled at me, and for a moment, she wasn't the woman who'd betrayed me. She was just my mother. When I woke up, I realized I couldn't move on until I faced her one last time. So I went. The facility was quiet. The kind of place that smelled like bleach and loneliness. When she walked into the visitor's room, my heart stuttered. Her hair had gone completely gray. And she looked smaller, not weak, but diminished as if time itself had been gnawing at her. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "You look like him." "Dad?" She nodded. "The older you get, the more you look like him. It's cruel." "Really?" I sat down across from her. "I found your letter." Her eyes flickered with recognition. "I wondered if you would." "Why didn't you tell me about Matthew?" I asked quietly. Her hands folded in her lap. "Because I didn't want you to know how broken I was. I thought I could bury it under a perfect family. Under control. But pain has a way of finding its own revenge." We sat in silence for a moment. "You could have chosen to heal." I said. "I didn't know how." She whispered. "But you do. That's what matters." I looked at her, then really looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. Because underneath everything she'd done, I saw a woman who'd never escaped her grief. "I don't forgive you," I said finally. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm not going to let you own my pain anymore." She nodded, tears filling her eyes. "That's all I ever wanted for you." When I left that day, I didn't look back. It's been 5 years now. The world has kept moving. I sold my parents' house, donated most of their possessions, and started my own small practice as a legal consultant for women trapped in manipulative financial situations. Sometimes, when I sit across from a client trembling with shame or fear, I see pieces of myself in them, the woman I used to be. And every time I help one of them reclaim what's rightfully theirs, it feels like a small act of redemption, not for my mother or sister, but for me. People still ask me if I'd ever take my family back. If, one day, forgiveness might find its way in. I always say the same thing. Forgiveness isn't a door you walk through. It's a bridge you build one plank at a time. I haven't built mine yet, but I'm working on it. Because revenge gave me justice, but healing gave me freedom. And freedom, that quiet, steady kind, is the sweetest ending I could have asked for. If my story touched you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring stories like mine, stories of betrayal, survival, and rebirth to others who need them. And tell me in the comments, what does forgiveness mean to you?